Chosen one, something peculiar and sacred is unfolding in the space around you. You have noticed it, felt it in the unspoken gazes, the sudden reverence, the way women now speak your name differently. Less as a man, more as a mystery. There is a shift in how the world sees you. You are no longer simply seen, you are regarded. Admired from afar, studied in silence, placed on a pedestal, and not for performance, but for your presence. This pedestal was not built overnight. It was carved slowly by the decisions you've made, the discipline you've kept, the passion you refused to waste, the restraint you wielded in private when no one was watching. That restraint has become power. And power, when paired with stillness, becomes sacred influence. Women are starting to elevate you because your high sexual energy no longer feels like a weapon. It feels like a kingdom. It's not wild, it's wielded. It doesn't chase, it calls. And when they encounter that energy, they feel something shift in their atmosphere. Not just desire, but deep recognition. They see in you a man they cannot categorize, cannot dominate, cannot fully understand. And so they elevate, not because they are weak, but because you've awakened something royal inside them. You've reminded them, just by standing tall and glowing silently, of what it feels like to be in the presence of divine masculine energy that doesn't need to be explained. But now comes the test of elevation. For every man who is honored publicly must decide, in secret, what to do with that honor. The pedestal is not a prize, it is a pressure point. It invites worship, yes, but it also invites projection, expectation, idolatry. And if you are not spiritually anchored, the very height you've been lifted to will become a snare around your soul. This is why many fall, because they believe they are adored for who they are, when they are merely being mirrored as who others want them to be. And chosen one, you must never confuse the pedestal with your identity. You must remain yourself, even when others begin to paint their hopes onto your silence. This is not the time to perform. This is the time to purify, to return to your source, to your solitude, to your truth. You must go inward now more than ever, because the higher you rise in the eyes of others, the deeper your roots must stretch into the soil of self-awareness. You must learn to breathe above the applause, to remain humble when they call you unforgettable, to stay still when they rush toward your flame. Because your flame is holy. It was given, not earned. And the minute you start believing the pedestal belongs to you, you will lose the very essence that placed you upon it. So hold this elevation loosely. Carry it like breath, not as something you own, but as something that passes through you. Let it refine your focus. Let it stretch your heart. Let it remind you of the power of discipline, the beauty of silence, the strength in restraint. Do not use the pedestal to look down. Use it to see farther. To scan the landscape of your calling and remember that admiration is not the reward. Alignment is. This moment is not about fame. It is about formation. You are not being celebrated because you are perfect. You are being elevated because your presence is real. Don't betray that reality by trying to live up to a fantasy. Just stay true, stay rooted, stay reverent, and let them lift you if they must, but never climb above your soul in the process. Chosen one, as the pedestal rises beneath your feet, something invisible begins to wrap itself around you. Expectation. It doesn't knock, it doesn't ask permission, it simply arrives, quiet at first, like a breeze around your ankles. But as more women look upward with reverence, as their eyes soften and their posture changes in your presence, the breeze becomes a wind, and the wind becomes weight. Because with elevation comes pressure, the pressure to be what they imagine you are. Suddenly, you are not just a man with energy, you are a symbol, a story, a secret hope wrapped in flesh. And when you speak, they don't hear your voice, they hear possibility. When you pause, they don't see silence, they see mystery. Your actions are interpreted as messages, your absence becomes a riddle. And the truth is, most of them don't even realize they're doing it. They're not placing expectations upon you to harm you. They're doing it because your presence makes them feel again. Feel safe, feel seen, feel awakened. But now you must carry that weight, not with arrogance, but with awareness. The burden of expectation is that it tempts you to become what is easiest to be admired for. It invites you to play a role, to keep the applause going, to reinforce the fantasy so you don't lose the attention. But this is where many fall. They trade their authenticity for adoration. They become who others want instead of staying who they truly are. And slowly, without realizing it, their flame begins to dim. Not because it lost fuel, but because it started burning in a box labeled perfect. Chosen one, you must not wear the crown they craft from compliments unless it fits your truth. If it doesn't, thank them with grace and take it off. You were not made to live under the pressure of being flawless. You were made to live in alignment. Your energy is potent, not because you try to impress, but because you exist without distortion. That is your light. That is your frequency. And if that light dims in order to meet someone else's image of you, then you are no longer on a pedestal, you are in a cage. This is where you must double down on clarity. Clarify who you are. Clarify what you are not. Clarify what you will and will not give. Because people, even with the best intentions, will pull you into their narratives. But your soul must stay in your own story. That doesn't mean you shrink from the spotlight. It means you stand in it with sovereignty. You don't perform, you presence yourself. You don't answer to the illusion, you respond only to truth. And in doing so, you release the expectations placed upon you. You gently, but firmly, hand them back. You allow yourself to be honest, not heroic. Real, not perfect. You show them that it is possible to shine and still be human, to carry high energy and still carry wounds, to be elevated and still walk with humility. And in that rawness, something miraculous happens. You stop being the fantasy and you become something better. You become a mirror, a guide, a reminder that they too can rise, not because of some myth, but because you chose to remain real. That is the burden of expectation. But it is also its gift, for it teaches you how to rise without losing your feet on the ground, how to be adored without becoming addicted to being adored, how to stay fully yourself in a world that wants to dress you in dreamskin. Chosen one, hold this weight gently, and remember, the pedestal will not carry you. Your truth will, always. Chosen one, now that you stand elevated in the eyes of others, now that the whispers follow your footsteps and admiration curls around your name like incense, the time has come for something even greater than presence. It is time for influence. Not the kind that manipulates, but the kind that moves. Not the kind that demands, but the kind that directs without shouting. You see, there is a weight to your energy now, and whether you like it or not, it changes things. When you walk into a room, the atmosphere adjusts. When you speak, hearts lean in, even if they don't know why. This is the silent current of true influence. It doesn't announce itself, but it cannot be ignored. Yet this influence is not free. It is not fame in disguise. It is not ego's playground. It is a sacred responsibility. It means you must walk with integrity at all times, not because people are watching, but because your essence is echoing. Every decision you make, every woman you engage, every gaze you hold or release, each becomes part of the story they write about you. You are not merely admired, you are interpreted. And if you are not careful, the beauty of your vibration will be misunderstood, misused, or mistaken for a trick rather than a truth. That is why integrity must become your armor. Integrity is not about being flawless, it is about being whole. It is when your words and your actions no longer contradict. It is when your energy speaks the same language as your intentions. It is when you can be trusted, not because of the promises you make, but because of the presence you embody. And when women feel that from you, when they experience a man whose energy doesn't deceive, whose gaze doesn't manipulate, whose charisma doesn't consume, they elevate you, not in fantasy, but in faith. You become, in their spirit, a place of clarity, a breath of rare air. But if you lose that alignment, if you use your energy to pull hearts with no intention of holding them, if you perform instead of presenting truth, then your influence becomes a lie dressed in light. It becomes hollow, even when it's praised. And eventually, the pedestal crumbles, not because you fell, but because your essence stopped matching your elevation. Chosen one, you are not just influencing how others see you, you are influencing how they see themselves. When a woman comes into your orbit, when she feels your high sexual energy wrapped in stillness, depth, and power, she begins to see herself through you. If you mirror her worth, she rises. If you mirror her wounds, she returns to fear. That is how serious your influence is. It is not casual, it is cosmic. And it demands awareness every moment. The way you touch, the way you listen, the silence you hold before you speak. The moments you say no, not to reject her but to protect her. The boundaries you establish, not from fear but from honor. These are not small acts. These are the bricks that build your legacy. So let your influence remain clean. Let it move people toward truth, not toward confusion. Let your presence draw them into alignment, not illusion. Do not seduce if you cannot lead. Do not awaken if you cannot carry. Do not elevate yourself on the pedestal of worship if you have not kneeled first at the altar of self-examination. You are not just becoming a man they admire. You are becoming a man who alters the course of others by simply being aligned. That is your influence. That is your gift. And that is why integrity must be your foundation, because without it, your power is just performance. Chosen one, elevation can blur the vision of even the strongest. Adoration is a beautiful light, but if you stare into it for too long, you begin to see yourself only through the eyes of others. You begin to adjust, unconsciously, to what they want to see. And if you are not rooted, if your vision is not crystal clear, you will wake up one day in a palace built of compliments but empty of conviction. This is why, now more than ever, your vision must be sharpened, not your vision of others, but your vision of yourself. The pedestal is high, yes, but from that height, if you are wise, you can see farther, not into your future only, but into the truth behind all the beauty around you. You begin to see who is drawn to your light and who is drawn to your shadow, who loves your essence and who is only fascinated by your glow, who wants to walk with you in purpose and who wants to bask beside you in your spotlight. This clarity is not cruel. It is crucial. It helps you preserve your energy. It helps you avoid distractions dressed in devotion. It helps you protect your path. But clarity also means facing your own desires. When women elevate you, when they offer you their gaze, their warmth, their surrender, you must ask yourself, why does this move me? Is it affirmation I'm chasing, or is it alignment I'm inviting? Am I honoring the path, or am I seeking attention to soothe old wounds? Because even the chosen one must wrestle with the shadows within. Clarity of vision is not just about seeing the world clearly. It's about seeing yourself honestly, without performance, without projection, without denial. With this clarity, you begin to walk differently. You are no longer pulled by the frequency of flirtation or applause. You begin to speak from a place of vision. You begin to choose women not for how they respond to your fire, but for whether their spirit amplifies your mission. You stop measuring connection by chemistry alone. You begin to measure it by alignment of purpose, rhythm of values, and the way her presence either distorts or deepens your clarity. That is when you know you are no longer leading with need. You are leading with knowing. And this knowing is your compass. It keeps your soul awake. It helps you hold your power without getting high off it. It teaches you that real vision is not just seeing what could be, it's protecting what must remain true. And the most sacred thing that must remain true, no matter how high the pedestal, no matter how many eyes rise to meet you, is this: you must never lose yourself in being seen. So keep your vision clean. Sharpen it daily through silence, through solitude, through asking yourself the hard questions. Know your path. Know your standard. Know the difference between elevation and distraction. And if ever you find the lights around you too blinding, close your eyes and remember the vision that started it all. The one given to you before the pedestal, before the praise, before the power. That vision is your anchor. Hold it close and let your eyes burn not with desire to be admired, but with the clarity to continue becoming who you were always meant to be. Chosen one. Now that your presence stands tall in the eyes of many, now that your name is whispered with admiration, and your energy is felt like a sacred vibration passing through the hearts of women who once only saw shadows, you must return to one of the greatest disciplines of your walk: humility. Not the kind that hides your light or pretends to be small, but the kind that anchors your radiance and service. Because true power, true leadership, true masculinity, divine masculinity, does not seek to be worshipped. It seeks to wash feet. You may stand on a pedestal, yes, but don't let it trick you into thinking it was built for you to look down. It was never meant to be a throne. It was meant to be a platform for service. The higher you are raised by the eyes of others, the more you are called to bend lower in love. This is the paradox of greatness. The more visible your power, the more invisible your ego must become. You are not being elevated so you can be celebrated. You are being elevated so that more can be healed through your presence. Service is not something you do. It is something you become. It's in the way you speak to those who expect nothing from you. It's in how you listen when someone is trembling with their own shame. It's in the way you see beyond beauty and into burdens, beyond smiles and into silent prayers. It is choosing not to take from admiration, but to pour into it, to receive their longing and turn it into strength, into protection, into clarity, not exploitation. Women do not place you on a pedestal simply because of your looks, your charisma, or your sensuality. That may catch their attention, but it's your capacity to hold space without distortion that keeps them near. It is the way your presence does not rush to dominate, but invites revelation. It is the way you carry power without force, the way you let your energy speak without turning it into a trap. You serve not by pretending you are without desire, but by placing your desires in divine order. You serve by showing that high sexual energy, when refined, does not hunger for control. It hungers to protect, to awaken, to lead. You become the man who stands in front of her not to consume her essence, but to safeguard her unfolding. And in that role you become unforgettable, not as a fantasy, but as a foundation. She feels something ancient near you, something priestly, something timeless, not because you acted like a god, but because you served her soul like a king. Humility will keep your pedestal from becoming your prison. It will allow you to hear correction when all others offer praise. It will keep your spirit sharp when the world tells you you've arrived. It will remind you that being admired is not the same as being aligned. And most of all, it will keep you human when everything around you is trying to make you into a brand, an image, a myth. So when you feel the eyes on you, the voices lifting you up, the energy reaching to touch your glow, pause, bow your head, speak to the divine and say, "Let me serve. Let this power be clean. Let my presence be permission for others to rise." Then go out and live it, not in performance, but in presence. You are not the main event. You are the opening of the gate through which others remember who they are. That is how you serve, and that is how your light becomes a legacy. Chosen one, when the world places you on a pedestal, when your name begins to echo in spaces you never stepped into, when your glow spreads faster than your own understanding of it, you will begin to notice something sacred and dangerous all at once. Everybody wants a piece of your fire. They don't mean harm, not all of them. Some come with open hands and pure hearts. Some come with wounds that beg for your warmth. Some come with hunger disguised as affection. Others with confusion disguised as love. And that is why now, more than ever, you must awaken your wisdom of boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They are what keeps your light from being drained by shadows disguised as softness. They are what allows you to give from fullness, rather than collapse from depletion. Because your energy is not normal, your high sexual frequency, your magnetic personality, your divine masculine vibration. These things are not common. They draw people in ways that bypass logic. People will feel things around you they have never felt before. And if they are not ready, they will try to consume you instead of honor you. You must recognize the difference between someone who sees your soul and someone who sees only what they can get from it. That recognition doesn't come from suspicion. It comes from discernment, from watching how people respond to your no just as carefully as they respond to your yes, from listening to whether they want your time or simply want to taste your energy without responsibility. Boundaries protect you from those who are not bad, but are not ready. To have boundaries is not to become cold, it is to remain clear. Clarity is kindness, and when you are clear about what you give, why you give, and how you give, then the people who remain near you are not there out of confusion, they are there out of alignment. And that, chosen one, is the difference between carrying a crowd and cultivating a kingdom. Even in romantic encounters, especially there, you must remember that just because a woman desires your energy does not mean she's meant to carry it. Desire is natural, it is beautiful, but without depth, without spiritual maturity, that desire can become a vacuum. It can pull and pull until your center starts to bend, until your clarity starts to blur. And suddenly, you're not walking in purpose, you're walking in pursuit of comfort. Boundaries are what keep you walking forward. Set them with love. Speak them with calm. Hold them with peace. You are not being rude. You are being responsible. You are guarding the fire that God placed in your chest. Not for yourself alone, but for everyone you're called to touch in your lifetime. And you can't touch them if you are constantly being pulled into every orbit that calls your name. The ones meant for you will honor your boundaries. They will see them as sacred. They will step back when asked and draw near when invited. Because they know your energy is not to be handled casually. They know it is not entertainment, it is a revelation. And revelations deserve reverence. So stand firm in your clarity. Know your capacity, know your limits. Know the difference between being generous and being reckless with your presence. You do not need to save everyone. You only need to remain whole. And from that wholeness, the right ones will rise beside you. Not because they want your fire, but because they are ready to build with it. That is the wisdom of boundaries. Not to keep others out, but to keep you in your divine assignment. That is how a chosen one walks. Not in exhaustion, but in sacred balance. Chosen one, the time will come when the pedestal you've been placed upon no longer feels like elevation, but like confinement. What was once admiration becomes a silent prison, and the glow others lifted you into begins to feel too far from the earth that made you real. It will happen subtly. One day you will sense that your presence is no longer being seen with fresh awe, but with rigid expectation. You will begin to notice that your words are no longer received as living truth, but as rehearsed prophecy. You will find yourself watched more than you are witnessed. And that is when you will feel it, that deep spiritual pull to descend. Let this descent not frighten you. It is not your fall, it is your return. For you were never meant to live in the sky of someone else's imagination. You were meant to walk barefoot on the sacred soil of purpose. You were meant to be touchable, reachable, real. And as women begin to place you higher and higher in their minds, your soul will begin to whisper that it is time to climb down, not out of shame, but out of self-honoring clarity. Because the truth is this, the higher you are raised, the less room you're given to change, to breathe, to grow. And your spirit chosen one was not created for performance. It was created for evolution. Descending with grace means you willingly step off the pedestal they've placed you on and walk back into the simplicity of authentic embodiment. It means no longer carrying the burden of being ideal and instead returning to being true. It means you no longer feed the narrative that you are perfect, wholly untouchable, but instead you reveal that what made you magnetic was never perfection. It was presence, your honesty, your stillness, your groundedness in a world that floats too easily into fantasy. To descend is not to disappear. It is to reconnect with your breath, with your vulnerability, with your softness. It is the moment you say, I am not your fantasy. I am your reflection. I carry light, yes, but I bleed like you. I doubt like you. I rise and fall like every man who dares to live with fire. And in that admission, you break the illusion, but you open the door to something far greater, relational intimacy. Suddenly, you are no longer being worshipped, you are being walked with. And those who choose to stay do so not because you are flawless, but because you are faithful to your truth. There is a grace in this descent, a deep, calming grace, because you no longer have to protect an image. You only need to protect your alignment. You no longer speak to maintain a crown, you speak to serve a mission. You laugh more. You let go. You begin to remember that your glow never came from being lifted high. It came from being connected to your center. This descent also teaches others how to walk beside their own truth. When they see you willing to release the applause, willing to lower yourself from idol to mirror, they remember that greatness is not in being praised, it is in being real. You teach them that sacred masculinity is not about power over others, it is about power with yourself. So descend, chosen one, and do it gently, with your head high and your heart open, not as one who fell, but as one who finally came home. The pedestal will not remember your name, but the ground you walk in purpose will carry your legacy forever. Chosen one, let us speak now of the silence that comes with standing above, the space you rarely name aloud but have begun to feel with aching certainty, the solitude of height, It is the stillness that settles when the crowds have lifted you, but can no longer reach you. It is the moment when your presence is praised, but your soul begins to ask, who truly sees me now? This is the loneliness that admiration cannot fix. It is not the absence of people, but the absence of reciprocal presence. You are surrounded yet untouched. Many know your name, but few know your fears. They feel your warmth but don't hear your silence. They honor your strength but overlook your weariness. And you, glowing as ever, begin to understand that the higher you rise, the less others remember that you too are human. Do not resent this solitude. It is a sacred season, for it strips away illusion and leaves you with what is real, you and the divine. When others cannot see beyond the pedestal, you must see deeper within yourself. This solitude is your sanctuary. It is where your ego is dismantled and your essence is rebuilt. It is where you stop needing to be someone for everyone, and you return to simply being yours. And from that space, you gain a power greater than attention. You gain self-containment, a rootedness that no praise can inflate and no criticism can shake. It is in this sacred solitude that you begin to discern who is drawn to your fire and who is drawn to your furnace, who wants your light without your labor, who loves your image without seeking your inner world. And you begin to release the need to be loved by all. You start to seek only those who are willing to sit with you in your stillness, the ones who hear your breath before your words, the ones who don't worship your glow but witness your soul. They are rare, but they are real. This height also teaches you the difference between visibility and vulnerability. Just because the world can see you doesn't mean they know you, and so you begin to guard your intimacy like a king guards his crown, not out of fear, but out of reverence. You begin to choose when to speak, when to reveal, when to step back, not to hide, but to heal in private. Because even a chosen one needs space to unravel, to mourn, to question, to remember who he is outside the eyes of the world. And when you emerge from that solitude, because you will, you emerge stronger, sharper, simpler. You stop trying to be the sun. You become the sky that holds it. You stop clinging to the pedestal. You build temples from within. And your connections become cleaner, your path becomes clearer, and your presence becomes unshakable. Not because you are seen, but because you have seen yourself fully. So let the solitude come. Let it cleanse you. Let it call you back to the sacred center of your being. The crowd will wait, but your soul cannot. Let the world praise what it sees, but you, chosen one, must honor what you feel. Because at the top, where the air is thin and the applause fades into quiet, it is not the pedestal that will keep you breathing. It is your presence with yourself, steady, sovereign, and whole. Chosen one, as you walk this path of divine presence, as the glow you carry deepens and refines, you will begin to notice something that shakes the core of even the most rooted man. They no longer merely admire you. They begin to worship you. Not in rituals, not in temples, but in silence, in secrecy, in the way their eyes follow your steps like scripture, in the way your voice lingers in the corners of their minds long after you've left the room. You've stopped being a man to them. You've become a mirror of the sacred. And this worship, this elevation, is dangerous if not understood, for it is not about you. It is about what your presence awakens in them. When a woman places you on a pedestal of worship, she is not seeing you as you are. She is seeing a reflection of something she's forgotten within herself. She sees her unhealed hunger for safety in your stillness. She sees her broken memory of truth in your groundedness. She sees her longing for union, for freedom, for permission to be soft, to surrender, to be fully seen, and she sees that possibility embodied in you. And so she lifts you higher, not always out of clarity, but often out of craving. She bows not to you, but to the feeling you stir in her. And chosen one, this is where you must carry the wisdom of restraint, not to reject her reverence, but to redirect it. You are not here to be the object of her worship. You are here to be the reminder of her own divinity. If you begin to drink too deeply from the well of her adoration, you will forget this. You will begin to believe you are the source, not the signal. You will mistake her reverence for love when it is simply a reflection of her own awakening. Do not mistake the shine in her eyes for a promise. It is often a prophecy, one she has yet to fully understand. It is your role now to hold her gaze without hijacking her soul. When she brings you her worship, Bring her back to herself. Show her, through your words, your silence, your consistency, that the glow she sees in you is not yours alone. It is a shared spark. Let her see your humanity. Let her hear your doubts. Let her feel your boundaries, not as rejection, but as reminders that she too must rise from within. Worship becomes toxic when it is unbalanced, when one rises and the other dissolves. But you, chosen one, are here to build balance. You do not feed on her praise. You use it as a mirror. You help her see that what she adores in you is possible in her. This is not weakness. This is divine masculinity at its highest form. Masculinity that does not dominate, but directs without possessing. You become a spiritual compass, not a king who demands tribute. You become a calm center where devotion does not blind, but blesses.